Hail, Jim Alexander.
The J, the I, the M, the M, the Y, the J, the I, the M is Jimmy. It's Jimmy.
What's going on, everyone? Jim Alexander here, The Real Talker. You're on The Real Talker podcast. I have a special edition for you, the coronavirus chat about movies. And joining me today is my buddy, my co-host on AfterBuzz for Raw After Show, a man of many talents. He's a DJ. He sells. He's a former guy that was running for mayor. He sells. He's got an online store. He's got a website, flowbeto.com. Mr. Flowbo Boys, what's going on, my man?
Thank you so much, man. I'm broadcasting live from my apartment because I'm on day 17 of a self-quarantine.
It's been already 17 days.
Yeah, man. It totally is. And it's weird because the real life, the normal life, seems so long ago, right? It was just a month ago, but it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been kind of surreal, you know? I feel like everything stopped. Not only the world that we live in, everyday things, but like, you know, entertainment. That's what we're kind of all involved in, some aspects of it, you know, whether it's hosting or you know, movie indulging in any way, even for those of us at home, you know, just general moviegoers and fans. The whole entertainment industry has shut down. Corona has changed our lives. How has it changed you for basis your everyday living? Because, you know, you can tell people like what sort of things you do. We're both on AfterBuzz TV. For those of you that don't know, we do a podcast on Monday nights and Wednesday nights for WWE NXT. But what about you? How has it affected you, Flowbo, as for your work that you do? You know, with hosting and comedy and even the DJing.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. The thing is, everything I do for income, everything I do for my brand is all entertainment. And entertainment that requires groups of people. I'm a wedding DJ in Southern California, which means I go out and I do announcements and I play the songs for weddings up to 5, 6, maybe even 700 people sometimes. And I'm a stand-up comedian. In fact, April 1st, which was by this recording yesterday, I was supposed to be out in Alaska for a comedy festival. Performing in front of groups out there, and that got canceled, and I had a show planned in Japan on the 15th, and everything came to a grinding halt. You know, at home we try to do content creation and make more content, but it's a lot different. You know, we don't notice it quite yet because we're watching the playlists and the lists we have on Netflix of things we will get around to if we have the chance, but people don't really realize that an entire industry, one of many, have completely stopped, you know, in entertainment.
Yeah, it's insane. And like, entertainment isn't just movies and TV. It expands to so many realms. For those of us, you know, it's either video gaming, it's obviously movies, TV, and film. It's anything really that's hosting. I mean, we're talking about even comedy, sports, wrestling. I mean, the way entertainment has been occupying our lives on a daily basis, we kind of took for granted in a lot of ways. And now when you don't see sports, when you don't see movies being released in theaters, when you don't see these things we're so accustomed to and used to on a regular basis, we kind of take things for granted. Don't you think? Like, looking back at it now, in a sense that all we had available to our disposal, so much form of entertainment, now we don't have it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So early this month, I was in Florida at a comedy show. My old college called me up and they said, "Hey, you want to teach the kids some foundations of comedy and perform?" And that was March 12th, and it was a Thursday in northern Florida. And everyone who follow this pandemic casually, that was the day sports died. I remember sitting in a bar, and when we could go to bars, right? And saying, "Hey, look, XFL's canceled, NFL's postponed, NHL's postponed." And for a lot of people, this thing that sounded pretty far off and the other side of the world was starting to hit home. And without sports, what do you do? And we all kind of laughed at it then. It was, let's make memes of watching bowling and curling on ESPN. We didn't quite understand how serious it was, but to me, that was the first inkling when sports shut down and movies and TV shows were next to follow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And, you know, one thing, like you mentioned, day 17 in quarantine, we're losing track of days. I don't even know if it's a Sunday or Wednesday, you know, at this point. It's almost Groundhog Day every day. The thing I've noticed now, it's gotten to a weird state. We're both wrestling fans. We watch wrestling. Are you finding yourself getting accustomed to living without movie releases, living without sports? I never thought for a moment I could even, like, I would freak out when the NFL season was over. Like, what am I going to do with my Sundays now? And we had NBA available and baseball's around the corner. Being a big sports fan, it's like you freak out after Super Bowl. Like, oh my God, this is such a lull in sports now. And like, there's always a sport or two at the same time. I'm almost in an odd way used to not having sports anymore, which would be like surreal and impossible if you ask a big sports fan like me, on that surface. And you're a huge Mets fan, and here's opening day should have been already started, and we don't have it anymore. Have you gotten almost comfortable in a sense, or used to the essence of not getting movie releases every weekend and not getting, sports and even wrestling without fans in stadiums? How do you feel about that?
That's a good question, because a lot of sports, I have different levels of fandom across most of them, like range from the casual to the hardcore. A lot of the casual sports, I'm not reading up on soccer news as much as I used to, or I'm not looking at the Brooklyn Nets and see what they're doing. And so it is kind of weird. I almost feel like I'm in an alternate United States, It really reinforced my Mets fandom, because I was a Mets fan since day one, and that's the one team, the one sport that's really hurting. In fact, a lot of Mets fans last week had something called the hashtag Mets prom, where we all wore our Mets gear and took pictures, like if we're going to a prom, and got in a big Zoom conference, and that was the only thing. So to answer your question, the actual act of sports I'm getting used to, but I am missing the community from one particular sport in general, and that's the New York Mets.
I didn't even know that you guys did that.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's bringing, in a weird sense, it's bringing people together in a lot of ways to talk about, things like that. To kind of, we're almost in a weird way, we're giving like vigils to sports and entertainment, right? It's kind of an odd, eerie thing. We're almost like, you turn on ESPN, and it's like you're getting like clips and games of like former Super Bowls and the NCAA tournaments being shown on repeats. It's almost where, like, in a sense, it's like a memorial, right? It's turned into this sort of thing. We're looking back and kind of idolizing former events and replaying certain things.
A lot of times that's all we have. The news cycle is pretty much dominated by two things, and that is, in this country, it's the actual pandemic and our country's response to said pandemic. And so if you're someone like myself, you can only take a certain amount of hours of the real world in one day. We want to escape. And for a lot of people, a lot of Americans who aren't able to work, it's going to be tough to find the income to press on. But I can tell you that people are prioritizing Netflix over a gym membership, for example, because that there's an hour to watch a movie or a TV show to get their minds off of what's going on. And the thing I like is there's certain shows that broke through, like Tiger King, right?
Yes, I was just going to ask you about it.
Yeah, it's a captive audience, and it's so outlandish. Everyone's going, what's going on? I'm willing to invest into this,
It's crazy that Tiger King has become literally the biggest thing. We have like celebrities. Everyone is so consumed by that show. It's insane how it almost spread, like, in a sense, like a wildfire of TV viewing, of literally it's compelling such a way that it's grabbing everyone together. It's must-watch TV. People are just so fascinated. I mean, you're hearing about it even if you don't. There's no way to avoid this. Like, you must be in a cave or something, locked up in a bunker, not to hear about this show. Have you watched it? What's your take on it? How did you hear about it?
I heard about it. I have this vlog series, not to put myself over, but I have a vlog series called What's Up Flobo, and I usually do a Q&A every 25 episodes. So I was coming up episode 50, and I said, hey, do you guys have any questions you want me to answer? I ended up scrapping the idea, but someone said, hey, have you watched A Brilliant Tiger King yet? And I was like, what is that, like an anime series? What is that? It's made in my queue. I mean, I have other shows I watched ahead of Tiger King. That's next. But from my experience, the last big Netflix event was Love is Blind, which I was a part of. And I was on the after show for that. So I remember having the big Netflix sweep where it just dominates the memes and everyone has their own takes and stories. And here's the thing. Celebrities and myself, or normal Joes, we're kind of on the same level now. I dream about being on the Tonight Show, but Jimmy Fallon is doing the show in his bedroom. I could do the same exact thing. So we all get together and we talk about shows and movies we like. Then there you go. There's a balance.
You know, that's an interesting point. I kind of wanted to dive into the fact about you manage celebrities being on the same level. I think this event, personally, I think it's going to change how we view celebrities and entertainment in a lot of ways. I mean, we're seeing celebrities be forced to be grounded. They have to be now. I mean, they might still have their mansions and lavish lifestyles, whatever, inside, but now their voices aren't as loud as they were before. People aren't clinging to what celebrities are saying. They're almost getting a backlash of sorts from regular common people that used to support them and some that worship them in a lot of ways. Have you seen these signs of like this? I know Gal Gadot did that whole kind of a rendition of the song with all these celebrities, you know, and she got major backlash even from guys like Joe Rogan. Kind of like the celebrity privilege now is being kind of a catchphrase theme that's going around, and people are not having it. What's your take on how celebrities are being perceived now during this coronavirus time, where they don't have that platform necessarily as they did anymore? Their tweets aren't as loud anymore, and their Instagram posts aren't as viewed in that sense. What is your take on what's going on, how this has changed celebrity kind of their status in this society?
Well, I got to take a step back because I've been self-employed since 2017. I got that on my own, and when you're self-employed, you basically are flirting with unemployment all the time. So that feeling of like despair and being, well, how am I going to make ends meet? I don't know when my next client is coming in, really does change you. And in a lot of ways, that kind of trained me for this, at least try to be optimistic. But I can imagine if you are someone who just put your head to the grindstone, you work at a job and they tell you go home, not because you're good or bad, but because of this thing we can't even stop, just go home. And you have celebrities going, man, let's make a song about what's going on. You can kind of incite a riot in a way. Celebrities are people too. They're trying to help out the way they can, but they can't do anything. But if you're so used to a certain lifestyle, those things may come off as tone deaf. Like, what good is a song with your best friends if April 1st was yesterday? And I can almost imagine people on my timeline and my followers had trouble meeting that if you couldn't work half of the month in March. And I don't know about your situation, but in my apartment in Los Angeles, my property management company sent me an email saying, we hear for you. We understand with what's going on. Pay your rent online, chump.
Wow.
Know? So a tweet from a celebrity being like, let's stick together, guys. This comes off as saying, you don't understand me. You don't know what I'm going for. You're in your big house, but you don't really know. A celebrity could just be keeping up with the Joneses, and they could be struggling too.
Interesting. Because they might not be getting a lot of projects, and obviously there's nothing going on. The whole industry shut down. As far as apartments in Los Angeles, hey, I got my rent raised last month, okay? So that's perfectly timely right now. It's like, oh yeah, as of March, we're raising it, you know? Like, oh gee, thanks, you know? So apparently people have been charged anywhere from $50 to $100 raise in the past month.
Of course.
Like, yeah, great timing. Thanks a lot for that.
Thanks a lot, LA.
Yeah, really. Looking out for your people. You know, it highlights what people think about LA. You know, the land of the ruthless and for themselves in a lot of ways. You know, and it's tough for a lot of people to make. Like, we see a lot of our colleagues and people in the industry with us who are self-employed, who are freelancers. You know, it's like you're seeing posts on Facebook like, "Hey, I do this side job now. You need any help?" You know, like people are just. Finally kind of, and I felt like sometimes in what we do with hosting and, you know, like, in a sense, we're not celebrities. We haven't made it. We have some cool perks of what we do, but we're as much as the average Joe as there is, you know? It's kind of an interesting lifestyle because we do some lavish things and we are part of lavish events, but then at the end of the day, we go home and we live like everyone else. You know, at the end of the day, at least I do. You know, I know I'm not a celebrity or anything like that, so it's like, yeah, I'm cool, part of some cool premieres or talk to a big star, but then perspective always hits, and I always live with that, knowing that, hey, this is just like a temporary, you getting to peek into something, you know, that many don't, but you're not living there. You know, you're not staying, you're just visiting.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a cottage industry. If you're an actor, yeah, you can act in a big budget movie, but if you really want to act, you can start in community theater. You really can't start what you do on the corner. I want to interview this guy walking into the liquor store as if he's a celebrity. So you have to show up to these things with your talent and what you pulled from other experiences, but you have to look the part. So people don't really understand the costuming, is what you call it. Not as you being fancy, is that you got to look like you belong there. And no one understands the hours editing. No one understands that the fact that you have to keep going unless you're an afterthought. And so a lot of people doing what you do are seen as celebrities to the uninitiated, but you are working. It's no different than a coal mine in that way.
Yep.
If it dries up, if there's no more things to mine, then we all go home and we say, what's next?
Mm-hmm. And we look at it like, I always thought this, there's no shame in working side jobs. Like, hell, I've delivered Postmates. I've done all sorts of side jobs in LA to keep afloat. It's like, yeah, I might be on a red carpet one night, but next day I'm delivering your meal. It's like, and for some people it might be like unreal to believe that, hey, you're in LA, I saw you on the red carpet, or you're doing this online show that people see around the world, but then you're living a humble lifestyle here to try to make it. It's different like in other cities, because some cities, if you get to do that, you're good enough to make it because the high cost of living isn't associated with that. Maybe you can pull that off in Lexington. If you have a radio show or a TV show and stuff like that, you can be a little star or celebrity locally. But in LA, you're grinding it and working it just like everyone else. You might be on TV one day and next day you are, delivering meals and doing odd end jobs, just to survive. And we both know that, that experience, that you can't sell yourself on a high horse that you're too good for anything, because you got to understand that everyone, literally whatever it takes to just survive in this town.
Yeah, I worked at Target. I worked at a mortgage company. I delivered groceries from a brand called Yummy.com, which is really weird because you can't say that word upset, Yummy,
Yeah.
Ironically, in my last day job, I sold hand sanitizer. Back when no one wanted it. So
we need it now.
Yeah,
Please go back to it. Ask them if they're hiring.
They came out in the weird time after Ebola and before this, and it was kind of rough going door to door.
Now you'd be a millionaire, okay?
Right.
That's crazy. But yeah, so it's just a perspective thing. And I think now with this thing, I think if there's anything we gain out of it, is perspective. Now, it's weird how, people are calling now, the frontline workers, celebrities, are chiming in even like, yeah, let's finally respect nurses and doctors and surgeons and even the grocery store worker. Because 6 months ago, people look down on grocery. Maybe not us who understand what it is to struggle and to have some of these jobs, as grocery workers or not. But people never, if you're looking in general aspect a year ago or something, you're not praising the grocery store worker. You're kind of looking at it like, oh, I guess it's another person that didn't make it. You never had this high praise. And I'm glad at least finally respect people who do hard jobs that we don't want to do. It's like these are jobs that no one wants to technically do. Be a janitor, that's not something you're proud of, or a garbage man, or work at a grocery store. But now at least people who do hard jobs, I always respected people who do any jobs. I always felt like sometimes I respected a janitor more than a CEO because they know at least what it takes to make a living, right. And they're appreciative and they work hard for it. As opposed to someone who just had it handed down.
I'm a son of a nurse. My mom was a nurse. Like most immigrants in this country, she worked in the medical field because it has high turnover, and that's something I learned a long time ago. There's a fallacy in this country about hard work, and so much as, hey, I got what I got in my life because I work hard, and if you don't have that, it's because you don't work hard enough. And everyone lives their life on hard. They think their life is the hardest one. So if a high-powered lawyer, not knocking lawyers, says, hey, look, I studied hard. I worked these cases. I have what I have because I put the effort in. The janitor picking up puke at Disneyland is not seen as somebody as vital or as important. But you know what? There was always an event where that always switches. Back when I was a teenager in my hometown, which is an odd thing to see firsthand, being that when there was a huge cloud in the sky because both Twin Towers fell, we were all about firefighters and police officers for a while. And now we're looking at medical service professionals and people in grocery stores and janitors. It unfortunately, in this country and even in this world, we don't think about that until there's a catastrophe, until there's a giant event, and it's now their time to shine. But you know what? people always give me flack for this, but Superman is one of my favorite superheroes because his power isn't his strength, it's his compassion, right? Here's somebody who can destroy the planet, but when he fights Lex Luthor, it's always a judgment call of how strong do I go so I don't kill this person and do my job. So if you see someone just putting their head down, like we say in America, doing their job, paying their taxes, and being a good citizen, why else do we look down on them?
No question. And I love the Superman thing. I'm always a Superman guy. I'm always team Superman. People are like, well, he's got all these alien powers. He's an alien. He's got these superpowers. I'm like, listen, and the people that take Batman, which is actually the majority. I found that argument to be lopsided. A lot of people, whenever I get into it, people love Batman. I'm like, well, Batman is a real guy. I'm like, well, he's a millionaire, a billionaire potentially. He had it passed down from his family. He's kind of a crappy dude. He's very brooding and not very social, doesn't have much of a social life, lives in a cave. I'm like, and he uses a little kid to do his dirty work, okay? It's like, hey, listen, he's not that redeeming of a guy just because he's human. At least Superman, there's redeeming qualities. There's more humanistic qualities about Superman, I feel, than there's Batman, because Superman works a regular job as a reporter to the benefit of the community. Right. He has a girlfriend that he shows a great, that he's had his ups and downs, but he has a real relationship with and he cares about, and he's compassionate to people. He's close to his parents, adopted parents. He's adopted. I always felt Superman had more humanistic qualities than Batman did, yet Batman had that reverence because he's a human and not an alien. Yeah. And Superman at least shows his face always too, right?
And also, if you want to do that dynamic one step further, because again, my parents are immigrants. I mean, Superman was an immigrant. And he embodied more of the American values we teach each other than Batman does. And Batman was a citizen. Like he had birthright citizenship. So
totally. So it's like I was like, really? You want to talk about like human qualities? Like let me break that down for you. I like that I finally got someone to take my back on this. But as far as I always thought this kind of before we leave this point. Maybe one thing about this country that I think we had upside down, not only this country as a society around the world. Why are our highest paid people on this planet athletes, musicians, and actors and entertainers? It's like, why aren't the people who literally save lives, the surgeons, the people that we stay alive in because of, and certainly, and the scientists, and all these people that are vital to our everyday living and to keeping the world going, they should be the ones making $20 million a year or whatnot. Why are we idolizing these athletes just because they can jump high or shoot a basketball? Sure, it's a skill not everyone has, but I think obsession and a sense idolization of entertainers has been skewed. Mm-hmm. And I think what this does, it's like in times like these, sure, we like to watch something on Netflix and stuff, but we found out finally that we can live without sports entertainment. We can socialize, we can entertain ourselves in a lot of ways, and hell, you can do a show now from home as can Jimmy Kimmel. Is he worth $20 million more than you are? Or especially when you're comparing that to a health professional who are literally putting their lives on a line right now. Hopefully this gives us some perspective after this kind of slows down and we're kind of back to our normal in some way, that, hey, maybe we shouldn't value these entertainers as much as we do and should spread the wealth a little bit around this country, that one person doesn't need $250 million for hitting a baseball because he technically isn't contributing to the society and in a way where it's beneficial to the mass public. Sure, they're entertaining us, but one person really worth all that? What is your take on that?
That's a very interesting point. That's something we always talk about when someone gets the A-Rod deal, or they have the Robert Downey.
I was kind of hinting at A-Rod there.
Yeah, it's very easy to sit there and say, man, they get paid a lot. Where our elementary school teachers and our garbage men or women, garbage people sounds terrible. Trash technicians don't get the respect they deserve. But ultimately, what I think is going to happen after this, and hopefully the curve gets flattened on a medical side, is that there's going to be a flattening of the curve of entertainers. I think we're going to find a new crop of entertainers are going to break through, they won't make as much as the class before them, as far as like the non-sports ones, because contracts are locked in or whatever.
Sure.
But I do think there's going to be a brand new crop. You're not going to have those mega stars like the Tom Cruise era is pretty much dead, and you're going to find celebrities who are going to have to hustle and cross promote and focus more on their endorsements and try to work to make the kind of money that they did just a generation ago. But as far as like why baseball and why football guys make what they are, is because not only are they athletes and there are bodies for endorsement, they still inspire kids. Like, I will give A-Rod that same $200 million if it helps kids pick up a baseball bat instead of a basketball and become a member of the sport. So, hate to say it, athletes are kind of like livestock in that way, but I don't think that's going to change, unfortunately.
I could see that scale, because one thing about athletes, you do have to have a certain, and they do put into work. I mean, a lot of people say athletes, they put in a lot of work into their craft to be the best. LeBron James, I mean, look at a work kid, Kobe. I mean, Kobe is a classic example of someone who put in tireless work to be the best at their profession. When it comes to performers and entertainers, it's like, sure, not everyone has a great voice, but I think their skills are more attainable, because you can be any age to be an actor, right? Athletes have a shelf life in a sense too, and there's only a certain period they can do what they do, right? But when it comes to entertainers, you can. I think it's more easier for a common person to become an entertainer through studying the craft and, taking it in. And hell, we've had people who are talentless make millions of dollars. That's one thing. At least in sports, you had some sort of talent. You had to get through levels to get to that professional level, right? I always think if you're a professional, you must have been good. Even if you don't maybe pan out on a professional level, you must have been good enough to get there. So that means better than majority of people. With entertainers, as we see, isn't it easier to kind of become an entertainer for a regular person to kind of commit to it and become that? And it's not as hard to find a great actor or a performer, or a musician, or a comedian?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent out there, and I guess I'm speaking from the comic side. In a lot of ways, it is like athletics in a certain way that, yes, you can be as good as you want, but then now it's a mixture of talent plus opportunity. You read Deadline or Variety, there's always, every 3 months or every pilot season, there's a producer that's having a pictorial where there's a picture of them in their office, and they go, there is no new talent. And every time they say that, a bunch of my actor friends go, that's not true. You guys don't know what you're looking for. And that always seems to be the dynamic there. As a comic, I've seen guys way funnier than I am not break through. And there are Instagram people that do sketches every 3 weeks that gets booked ahead of you. There is no secret sauce to that formula. But to answer your question, yeah, if you find the right niche, you can do things for a long time. If you are someone who makes TikTok videos and you have a nice following and you keep things that are fresh, you can go into your old age or till you're, whatever, a grandma or what have you. But yeah, with certain, especially like soccer, where you are running 6, 7, 8 miles a game, there is a very, very short shelf life. And so, yeah, maximize your earning potential when you're there.
True. I agree with that. And, I think one thing that might go away after this is our Instagram fame. Where people were getting ridiculous amount of money for having no talent, really, just maybe having a right look or whatever, where companies were just throwing money at them to promote here is some kind of vegan whatever the hell pill to make you lose weight, or here's a teeth bleaching product. I think that's so superficial now. After this point, we might not value that anymore. If anything happens, I actually hope the Instagram fame goes away, because I think that's kind of worthless in our society, and it's been worthless, and people were getting validated for it and getting paid and rewarded for really no talent and no hustle just by promoting something based on your looks or whatnot, and getting over a product that they didn't even believe in or care about. I thought it was very superficial how Instagram fame rose ahead of actual people with talent who didn't get the opportunities because of Instagrammers did.
Yeah, I think
YouTubers.
This experience may be the straw that broke the camel's back, because even as late as 2018, we saw the influencer marketing business model shift from, hey, we'll give you, Kim Kardashian's in a category category of her own, but it shifted from most Instagrammers and saying, hey, we'll give you thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars to promote. Rather, we'll give you a promo code if you do a post of this, you know. There's a certain, I won't name the name, but it's a certain product. It's a gummy for apple cider vinegar where 10 or 15 of my female followers support this brand. So I asked, hey, how much is this company paying you? And the answer is zero. They just say, hey, look, we'll give you a promo code. You get a kickback if someone buys products. So now they've gone from being Instagram influencers to being a street team. Yeah, as this goes on, that I think there's not going to be a middle ground. You won't get hundreds of dollars per post anymore. You probably either get kickbacks per sale, or if you are still a Kardashian or Chrissy Teigen, you might get your high purses. So there is no middle class. I think will probably be erased after this.
Interesting point. Now we're going to dive into what I've been wanting to talk about, the consumption of movies. Right now, I'm someone that has AMC, A-list. So I thought it was always a great deal because movies, especially in LA, are expensive. Sometimes you're paying $17 just to see a regular movie, not even in 3D or anything. But AMC A-list really got it right. I mean, it's all thanks to the defunct Movie Pass, where they kind of instilled the idea of subscription service for movie theaters at a low price, where you can view movies and not have to pay. You had a limit of them. They of course didn't have the right model, but they had the right idea that inspired others. Now I think AMC and some of the other theaters do it too. And AMC for about $24, you can see up to up to 3 movies a week, which is pretty good. 12 a month. I think that's kind of maxes you out. I don't know if anyone really has time more than 3 movies a week. But I was a frequent user of it. I thought the plan was really good and worth it. But now there's no more movies. I end up seeing usually 1 to 2 movies a week, actually. But now there's no more movies. Yeah. How weird has that been not to have a Friday release date? And especially in LA, unlike any other town, people flock to theaters on Friday and Saturday night. They're literally sold out, a lot of the new showings. That is kind of the place to be. We haven't had a movie release now in about a month, going even a little bit more since the movie theater shut down. How has that been? Are you a movie goer? How has that kind of changed your view of movies and just in general, seeing it from up close?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of an ambivert. I like to be by myself, like an introvert would, but I do have a social battery. Sometimes I go out, and when I'm tired, and I go home. Maybe it's an age thing or not. So I don't go to the movies a lot with people, but when
Me neither. I'm solo.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm in the house bored, to me, if I went out to a movie by myself for a couple hours in another room and came back home, I'll be like, all right. So that was really the first thing that it really hit home about the lockdown. Like, the bars are great, but I don't go to the bars by myself. Restaurants are okay. Maybe I like the deli counter at my grocery store, but I don't really go out that much. But that was definitely it's Tuesday afternoon, no one's there. Let me go out there and walk. I have the Cinemark equivalent of the Movie Pass or whatever.
Yep.
And they have the meals there too as well. So that's definitely hard. I remember when A-List tried for 2 days to do social distancing movies where they will allow 8 people in for a showing and then we'll call it sold out. That's obviously wasn't going to work. But as everyone is safe. It's odd to me though, that line is forever broken of what is considered a big movie release, right? Oh, don't wait to video. This movie deserves to be on the big screen. I was like, well, you've proven that it's not. Because the movie that was in theaters last week has to be rushed to home video now to recoup that losses. What's going to be a cinematic movie in 2021? That's my question.
That's the question. That is exactly the question. Because let's look at a movie like Trolls, who had a huge promotional tour. I mean, everything. Promotional tour, promotional pitch all over. I mean, you had commercials, you had billboards, you had buses with the movie promoting it, and now they're going straight to digital. You had a few movies that just got a theatrical release that were jumped quickly to the digital form. Like you had The Way Back with Ben Affleck and Onward. through Disney, which had big kind of theatrical releases, and The Invisible Man, another one that was big, and The Hunt, and they all went straight after like a week in the movie theaters or so, give or take, which they come out. They came out all around the same time in early March. Or late February. They are immediately got jumped to digital. And then you had the movies that were supposed to be released. I mean, you had a pretty good list coming up in the past month and this month coming up. You had a James Bond movie that was supposed to be huge. It was supposed to be the movie of the spring, really. Yeah. No Time to Die. That got pushed back. Mulan was supposed to come out about a week ago. That got pushed back, and then it started a trend where other movies were starting to get pushed back. We heard some major summer movies, and also Quiet Place 2 was a big one that was supposed to release. And then movies started shutting down. F9, the Fast and the Furious movie, Black Widow. I mean, we're talking about a huge Marvel movie. Wonder Woman, 1984. What do you think about all these companies suddenly pushing back these movies to a later date? Some of them have been postponed. I know Sony did that with their Ghostbusters movie and some of the other movies that they had on the slate. Ghostbusters Afterlife got pushed back to a year, to 2021. Same thing with Uncharted and with Tom Holland. We don't know yet about, for now, it's Wonder Woman's going to get pushed back to August, but we'll see with that. James Bond to November. And Black Widow, we don't know. They've kind of unspecified. Where do you think is going to happen with this whole movie year, with so many major releases, either pushed back to later in the year, or unspecified, or pushed to next year?
Yeah, of that list, F9 was the one I was most disappointed about. But I think you hit the nail on the head. A movie ticket is most times in LA $18, give or take, and that's week one. 9 of that goes back to the studio. So if you have a franchise like the Fast and Furious that has a big production and marketing budget, or like a new franchise you want to reboot, like Ghostbusters, yeah, you're gonna try to push it back. Maybe a year is the right call, because we don't know how long is this gonna last. I thought it'd be a couple weeks, but it's not looking that way. It could be a couple months, if not more. But then you have something like Trolls, where it had a good movie, it had a good run, but if you wait a year, that cultural relevancy may go away completely. So they had to make that decision. At least I thought it was the right decision of just going right to digital. So if maybe there's an audience.
It was too close to delay it because they already had all the promotion out.
Right. And so this has never been unprecedented. And if you're a studio, it's all risk averse as it is. You're counting on those millions, if not hundreds of millions. Best you can do to preserve it. And no one's going to blame you if you say, hey, man, the virus got me. But yeah, it just goes on longer than, if people don't listen and go outside, or they can't find a vaccine in time. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but these are possibilities. And it goes into 2021. We don't know what that means. Does that mean there's going to be a backlog and there's going to be less production? Or are we going to finally let day and date release of digital and cinema? We don't know. This is all new territory.
Yeah, and then think about the movies in production. I knew someone who was working at production on the new Batman movie, and that just came to a halt also, middle of shooting. I mean, they started shooting. They weren't that deep into it, maybe a quarter of the movie, but that just randomly had to stop shooting. And what happened to that? When did they resume? I mean, there's so many movies that were in the middle of shooting or about to start their production, and that's unconfirmed. I don't know what happens. I mean, and then you got to think about, how will people, we don't know one thing yet. The biggest curiosity about it once it stops is, how will people react? Will they still be lingering with these feelings and comfort, in a sense, and this new way of isolation and social distancing? Are we going to be hesitant to go to a movie theater? Like, are you going to, like, I know my mom and sister always warn me, like, hey, movie theater is one of the dirtiest, nastiest places you can go. There's been like a study done on it, how much, crap is left on the floors and how they don't clean them well in a lot of ways. So that was kind of a cesspool for a lot of germs and viruses to start, and like buses and trains and places like that. Like, how hesitant are we going to be now to go to a movie theater, to be in such close proximity, of people in one big room, basically, in a gathering, to watch a movie, when now we're being kind of told that we can see movies in HD, for almost the same price. Would you rather just sit in your living room, see the movie that's going to be released, instead of going out and, having a spree of spending, maybe for parking at a movie theater, for popcorn, or you rather just buy popcorn for $1 at the store and stay in and pay $20 and it really cost you $22 the whole night, and you get get the movie experience, you get the movie in front of your home, TV set.
Yeah, that's hard to say because the key differentiating factors to go to a movie theater is getting few and far between. I will say this: we've all become germaphobes overnight, even if you weren't.
Yep.
I run, and to me, running with a mask is not ideal for me, but I had to go out and buy sport masks for this reason, and that's something I never thought about before. Mind you, I live in one of the most polluted cities in the nation, right?
Yeah.
So now we have this issue now, like, because again, as a DJ, people are going to find a way to get married. I'm not too worried about that industry bouncing back. But the comedy club circuit was on its last legs to begin with. It was a vestige of vaudeville. Everyone knows that a comedy special needs to have a crowd, but who's really supporting the live comedic arts? And so I worry about that taking a slower bird coming back, and people saying, okay, I'm ready to go to a dark room with a sticky floor where I got to buy beer from a dirty glass and have comics hold the same microphone all night. We don't know if that's going to come back the way it is. And
are people in a move to laugh? I think people have become some somber in a sense. It might take a while for them to kind of just get to a normal instead of, I think it's messing with people's psyche, being isolated and stuff. You almost don't have that cheery mood like, yeah, I'm ready to laugh and be entertained and all that. I think it's just like you just want to get to a normal functioning.
Oh, absolutely. And this is why this is me personally. I'm not trying to say I'm not chastising anybody. I don't write any COVID-19 jokes at all. It's way too soon. There's way too many feelings there. My mom's birthday is today, and she just turned 69, and she's asthmatic.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, and she lives in the American epicenter in New York City, so I'm constantly worried.
Wow.
They
No
say
question.
that comedy is drama plus time, and I'm willing to wait for that. But yeah, you're right. There may be a somber look into things where people go, I'm not ready to go to a comedy club. I'm not ready to buy a CD or album. And as someone here seeing virtual open mics and virtual comedy shows, that's not it either. I don't want to have a Zoom meeting to tell people, other comics on a Zoom meeting, my jokes and have them ha 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 like I'm in Demolition Man or something.
That kills the purpose of comedy.
Yeah, it's live feedback. If a joke works or not, but it's the new normal. We don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in that sense, and plus people are so sensitive now, especially if someone you probably will know, has been diagnosed with COVID or had it or unfortunately maybe passed away from it. Like, I don't think you'd be laughing at that. It's too serious of an issue where people's lives, and especially people losing work, how this has affected people now potentially, not having a job to go back to or getting laid off. I don't think that's a joking matter. So the people, I think you're doing a great smart thing by not incorporating at least anytime soon. But those comics, there's a comic out there who just feeding on Corona jokes, and because they probably don't have anything better, and I think that's going to hit big, or it's timely, and it's not the right call, but that's going to rub people the wrong way more so than it would make them laugh.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good rule of thumb. If you can find it funny, that's one thing. But if you're trying to be provocative because that's what's on your mind, then you're doing no different than what everyone else is. As a comic, and even as a host too, your job is to answer the questions no one's thinking about. But when the questions are so engaging, go, wow, I really want to know the answer. It's my job to give material that you weren't thinking about, but go, hey, that's pretty funny. You going like, I'm washing my hands today. It's just whatever. It's trite.
Let's close it out on a somber note.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, well, it might be actually. I kind of want to know the way we are right now. And you said day 17 of this. We're at the start of April, pretty much. Where do you? I mean, it's so impossible to predict when this is going to end or anything, but based on being kind of both of us in the entertainment industry, where do you think, at least, as of right now, things will be like whenever we get back to the new normal? How do you think entertainment will end up impacted and have a comeback or lack of, in your perspective as of right now? We know a lot can change, but how are you viewing this as a livelihood and as a potential source of entertainment for everyone out there when it kind of things start getting back to normal.
Yeah, as a livelihood, the way that I think life or entertainment is going to be is going to change. I do think we're going to consume more media at home. I think there may be an uptick of comedians going to houses and private parties to perform.
Interesting.
And not so much like the club atmosphere that way, and a lot more traveling type deals. As a livelihood, it's time to pivot. I know it's kind of late now because we're in it. But for me, I've doubled down on my digital offerings. Not saying I'm making the same or if not more, but now if someone goes, "Oh, I'm a comedian, check me out at Chuckle Hut," it's no, I am a comedian. Check out this video vlog series, this Patreon, this X, Y, and Z I'm working on. Because there's going to be, you have to have something where people can consume in their homes. That's a given for at least for the immediate future. Hopefully that comes around and we don't think about it like how when we were kids, we don't think about the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. But for the next 3 to 5 years, the whole game is going to be changed.
I think so too. I think things will. I'd be shocked to think that everything will be back to normal within a few months or even after it ends. Like, people are just going to come back. I think it's going to change us forever. I don't think we're going to see the same world ever again as was. I think people are going to be more skittish, more questioning more things, not as likely to go out, whether to bars, clubs, comedy clubs, movie theaters. I think this way kind of shook us as a society, and now we're going to have eyes more open because, I didn't know anyone who washed their hands. Listen, I would go out with my friends or on dates, and it's like, I was always the guy like, hey, before I order food, I'm going to go to the bathroom, wash my hands. They're like, okay.
Yeah,
looked at me weird. Me too. Right? Like, they felt like you're the weirdo for like, why do you need to wash your hands? It's like, it's fine. And I always felt the weird. I'm like, well, we're outside, we're touching stuff. Like, I always kind of had the germa thing in the back of my mind. So I always washed my hands every time I would eat, before I ate or went out to eat, before the meal came.
My thing
I think that's
was,
going to change
I
now.
kept a bottle of 8-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer in my car, and no matter what I did outside the car, once I got in, I would do 2 squirts and then rub it against the wheel in my hands. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, we don't know what's outside, handling money, handling a wallet.
Exactly.
All that stuff, yeah.
And you worked out. You were selling those sanitizers. You know firsthand.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to pitch it. When it comes to entertainment, this world, like, I thought I would never be able to like function without sports. And I thought it was a necessity in life. No, like, as crazy as it sounds, I thought like sports were a necessity in my daily living. Yeah. I think now I'm going to have a different perspective. I think we can do without sports in a lot of ways and not value certain entertainment like the way we did. And I'm telling you, what I do a lot is cover red carpets and all that. I don't think people are going to be, hey, let's throw all these parties and throw money at like an after party and all these, like, I'm curious to see how these award shows are going to be treated next year, because it's always basically one big party for a month or so. It's just like, you're just going to fancy lounges and fancy places and giving gift bags and all these sort of things, just trying to kind of amp up the hype for it and make it as lavish as possible. I don't think that's going to return in that sense. I don't think you're going to have the glamorous, Vanity Fair parties and Oscars, all these things, where a whole town, especially we see here in LA, shuts down, and that's kind of like the end-all be-all, for that January through February, whatever it is, that month of February too.
Yeah.
Depends on the timeline. I don't think you're going to get all these premieres now. I just think what I do, I think there's going to be at least the premieres are going to be cut in half, especially the amount of people sometimes. You've been on red carpets with me. You see how sometimes people just jam-pack. You're literally breathing on top of someone else. It's not the most luxurious thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because the people sitting at home in Iowa or Idaho know the image of the paparazzi crowding to see up a celebrity, but once you're in that crowd, you don't know how uncomfortable that is.
Yeah, it's not that fun. It's like, oh, here's a celebrity walking by, but like, there's someone breathing down your neck. You have like not even a foot of space. And you're standing for like sometimes, a couple hours, and it's like hot, and it's like it's not the most comfortable or luxurious spot to be on a red carpet,
No.
And I think now for just like I think we're going to be, a lot of us is going to be germaphobes and just so so protective of our space, I think that's going to be affected in that way. So when we look back at it, I think my world and what we do, and you're too, you do hosting, you're on your way, and being to Red Carpet, I think it's going to change. I think you're not going to see these big premieres and money being thrown around, even because these companies need to recoup. These studios are going to be bleeding in a sense too. I mean, maybe Netflix will going to be doing good with throwing out stuff like Tiger King and having content directly there at home where people can consume it. But
at least at first, if people lose their jobs, I'm cutting Netflix too. And for example, so they have a more graduated window. But if it goes on 5, 6, 7 months, they may be in
no
trouble
question.
Too.
Yeah, you're going to start cutting because you're not going to be able to making payments, and entertainment's going to go first. You're like, oh, what can I cut? I can't cut my, power bill or gas bill or whatever. But I can cut my Netflix. I don't need to have Netflix, Disney Plus, and all these things as a payment at all. So I think that's the one industry. I think entertainment industry is going to be hit hard where that's going to be not viewed as a necessity, and they're going to have a tough time to bounce back. I think they're going to be the last to bounce back because people are going to realize that's more of a personal, just entertainment. It's for personal pleasure more than it is a necessity.
Right. Absolutely.
It's a weird time and world that we're in. And, for us trying to break into the industry, I don't think anyone's ever had that experience and time in their lives where, well, no one's really had, but especially kind of breaking into the industry. We are at such an unknown what's going to happen afterwards, and how our employers going to treat us. Is there going to be, and one thing about the hosting industry, it's already had a lot of issues, I feel, in terms of that. It's been entertainment reporting and that. There's so much going on. There's so much free work going on in a sense. And here's us showing you Oz and taking away the curtain. But a lot of us get very, very little for what we do, for, like you mentioned, the editing, all that. We don't get paid much. We get pennies, in a sense. And some of us don't get even paid for a lot of these gigs that seem glamorous or not. How is that going to come out now when employers weren't even paying us to begin with or anything? And now after this, what are our skill sets now valuable?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot like the recession. So I was in film school between the years of 2007 and 2010, right in the middle of the recession. And when I went to Chapman University in Orange County. And when you go in, they make you pick an emphasis. So like directing or sound design or editing or writing. So I was an editing student. That's what I got my degree in. My MFA is in film production with an editing emphasis. But the thing is, post-recession, editing jobs pretty much, like there was always a top in films, but editing jobs became editing/visual effects/sound design. And so we had this convergence. And a lot of guys, like myself included, were kind of left by the wayside because we were trained and drilled to do one thing, and now they want things to be merged. I tell this to all my car friends. I said, there was a time where luxury cars like Mercedes and Buick weren't the same as luxury performance cars, and they all merged. Like you can't have a luxury car that isn't performance because we want things combined. And so it's gonna be more exploitation. People want Girl Fridays and Guy Fridays to write one check to do things as minute as possible. You're a real talker. Other outfits you've seen come in with their camera person, and that camera person records, and they go home and they edit their own stuff and they upload. That's gonna happen on mass scale.
No, that's such a good point because like behind the curtain again, surprise, I do all my stuff. Everything I post, I edit. It's literally all me. That's why it's so time consuming. Yes, I should probably start a Patreon like you mentioned to help out some of the expenses because it's time consuming. I invest my own money into this site more than I ever get back from it in that sense. And it's like we see, I always kind of worry, like people are like, oh, you have your own outlet, that must be time consuming or not. But like, hey, a lot of these hosts and especially entertainment reporters that we look at that half sites are not, they don't do their editing. They just go out and like, oh yeah, they cover for, a lot of them are freelancers, so they cover for other outlets. Hey, I'm gonna do a little red carpet and ask a few questions and that's it. No, but you don't know how to edit. You don't know how to work a camera. You don't even know how to set up a tripod in a lot of cases. I've seen this, and hell, it's not even in small little outlets. That even happens in big big time kind of outlets with bigger companies. They just hire a freelancer or whatnot, and they just go and do the thing for them, and that's it. You're going to have to learn all these skills. And we've seen like radio stations and even TV stations. Now the term was like, before you were a reporter, now it's a multimedia journalist, you know, when you're looking up jobs. So multimedia meaning multiple things. You're doing 4 different things. But people who don't have those skills, who think they can just be a... Gone are the days of the Ryan Seacrest, Mario Lopez as just, I'm going to show up and just talk and read off a teleprompter. That's gone. You can't do that anymore. They're not hiring for that, and your one skill is not needed. It's not a skill that's even warranted in these days. You need to be able to provide companies, if you want to get hired, multiple things. You need to write, edit, shoot, operate a camera because you're doing one-man band, and be able to talk on camera too. And that's the skill set. You need to be your own company, your own boss. Even if you're freelancing for another outlet, you need to be able to do all the jobs in one, because you're not going to have the day of, the hosty host where, you just show up and read off a teleprompter and you go home. That's not what they're looking for anymore.
And that's also too, I guess anyone out here listening and they're discouraged now because we're all like poo in the business.
We ruined your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, it's a double-edged
real talk.
Yeah, real talk. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because if you're like me with editing and you got kind of washed out because they wanted 4 or 5 things, it's very easy to put your hands up and go, well, you know what, they want X, Y, and Z. I trained A, B, and C, whatever. But the flip side is those kids who got hired are going with the mental strain because they got this job. They make it sound like you won't get another job quite like this. You got to work extra hard to keep this job. So no one's happy, right? No one's happy when there's a down period. So I guess my thing is, no matter how small or how dumb you think it is, start your own outlet. If it's you writing a blog once a month, that's more than you having it in your head. Just do something for yourself. At least creative release, but hopefully at some point it actually makes revenue for you down the line.
And I told you that too. I told you that, and you did it. But here's the thing. People always ask me, like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. 90% of them don't. They just don't. Because when they know the work that it takes and the commitment to it and the effort, like, you need to be on it every day. Literally, it's a full-time job almost to do this. Real Talker is a commitment. I do the interviews. I go out to the locations. Then I edit all night. Then I write the blog posts. Like, it's a constant flow of work where you need to devote hours of your day to it. And if you're not consistently doing it, I've been doing it for over 3 years, and it's taxing. It is draining. But people, they like the idea of having their own outlet. They don't have to freelance for someone or just, be able to write their own thing and say their own thing and doing their own way. But then you need to sacrifice. You need to sacrifice that you need to put into work and consistency and effort, and people are just unwilling to do it. It's cool the idea of it sounds great to be your own, content provider, but then how many of you are going to commit to it? That's why I really give you high praise that you kind of, we talked about it and you did it. You're doing your YouTube show. You're consistently putting stuff out there.
I think that's the difference between a hobby and a job.
No question.
I'm sure LeBron gets up some days being like, I'm sore as hell, but he has to go and train. And I want to thank you for it, because people have told me that before, Jim. But for some reason, because you do that real talk, you made it sound like, bro, you're just wasting your talent if you don't do it. Don't be a jerk. Just start something. And I always tell the story. My laptop is so underpowered. I can't edit things. And so I said, I can't believe it. I'm a trained editor. I can't possibly do a show that's not, because I don't have this equipment and that equipment. What's Up Flobo is just me hitting live on the camera and talking. And it's not much, and it makes 12 views, but that 12 views becomes 20 views. And that 20 views becomes 30 views. And it becomes a movement, after a while. Yeah,
and here's the thing. One advantage, here's the positive thing. People can get started. I mean, there's apps that you can that do everything for you, like Anchor app to do podcasts, like this one. Starting up your own podcast isn't even that difficult. It's not like you need a major initiation to get yourself on Spotify and iTunes. It's a fairly simple process when you find your host site and put out content. And if you have a few backlog, podcasts, you can get in on iTunes. And to consistently do it, you don't have to do a blog. I kind of do it all. I do the website, the podcast, the interviews, the YouTube channel. It's a lot, especially doing it by myself. But hey, you don't have to commit to all that. You can make your own outlet in various forms. You can do a website, you can do a YouTube channel, you can do a podcast. It all.
Yeah.
You can do it whatever way you want to. I just kind of do it because my outlet, I want it to be as wide ranging as is. So I kind of commit to multiple forms, outlets. But hey, you start with the YouTube channel and one thing turns to another. Then soon it's a podcast, and then soon it's a website you're setting up on Squarespace or whatnot, or WordPress. So it's all doable. You can all do it on your own in a lot of ways. You don't need the help of others to get a website or a podcast going. It's
Right.
all the information's out on YouTube and websites to Google this stuff. So there's hope if you want to start it. But one thing I'll always say, you got to commit, you got to put in effort, because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to just happen for you. You got to put out the content, because it's not just going to appear for you. And a lot of people like the idea of doing things, but can't commit to it. Or the big, roadblock for them is, oh, what's my rewards? How much am I going to get paid? How much exposure and fans? You can't do this for views or fans of subscribers or even money, especially that, because that's not going to come to you.
Yeah.
You just got to commit to doing it.
That's just so funny to me. Like when a baker goes into culinary school, they're not like, well, I wonder what restaurant can open. It's like, you
Yeah.
haven't learned how to bake your first thing yet. That comes first. The content has to be quality. And I'm not even talking about the best camera, because you can easily fall into the trap of buying the best camera and best microphone. But if you're not saying anything different, then there's nothing that's engaging, right? So it really comes down to saying, like, even if you write a calendar and say, these days I'm recording or these days I'm posting things, basically hire yourself to your own company like you would your day job, and really make it work.
No question. Well, hey, we just hit the hour mark. I think it's a good time to wrap. I think we covered a lot here today. I mean, we're in crazy times, but there's a lot of things you can take out of this to kind of work. This is your time. People always complain about they don't have time, right? Especially in LA. Oh, I don't have time. I'm so busy. Well, hey, now you've had time. That excuse is gone, because if you can't find time now, you will never find time. So
True.
This is a time to start podcasts, to do things, to do things you wanted to. What else are you gonna do? Instead of binging on Netflix all day, at least start what you wanted to start. Now is the time. Now or never. Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So, man, appreciate you coming on. We're still doing our wrestling shows. For those of you out there who are wrestling fans who want to check out our content, it's on AfterBuzz TV Monday nights after Raw. We start late if you're on the East Coast, but if you're on the West Coast Pacific time, we start at 9 p.m. And then NXT on Wednesday nights, we do that at 7 p.m. Pacific time, right after NXT actually airs. So
Yeah, man.
we're doing those shows, and Flobo, tell people where they can find you and where they can consume your content.
Oh, man, I'm all over the place. How much time do we have left?
An hour.
Yeah, exactly. I'm available over at Twitter, at FloboBoys. I usually do most of my riffs over there. I'm on Instagram, at Flobito. My website is flobito.com. My podcast is called New Amsterdam, KNEW, New Amsterdam Radio. New episodes every Thursday. Also, if you want to support the homie, as I say, I have a t-shirt stand over at flobito.threadless.com. I've uploaded the official DJ Flobito shirt. And my Patreon,
Yay.
as Jim says, is at patreon.com/FloboBoys. We're talking exclusive videos, a bonus episode of New Amsterdam Radio. Some of my old projects and bloopers are there. Please support. It's trying time for all creatives, but thank you.
No question. Anything supports, and you know what? Any small thing shows support, and you put on a lot of good content. You got a good intel because you've been in a lot of sides of the industry. You've seen a lot of things, so different aspects of the industry in so many ways, from DJing to hosting to comedy. So you're always got some great stories to tell, and nothing's impossible, right?
Right.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining here. You can find me, as always, at The Real Talker on all social media. That's, of course, Instagram, Twitter. That's at the THE Real REEL Talker on Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook page, Real Talker, and of course, you can find me personally also at the Jim Alexander So that's on Instagram, Twitter. You can find me there. And of course, check out realtalker.com. If you're listening right now on iTunes, please subscribe to this channel. And of course, check out the Real Talker YouTube page and subscribe, because a lot of the cool interviews with the celebrities and all that, red carpets, and some of the audio interviews, even this podcast will be on the YouTube channel. So subscribe and check that out. So some content for you guys to indulge in during these times and afterwards too, in case you don't want to ever go to a movie theater.
Love it.
There you go. Well, we'll be back again. We're just going to get started with this. This is the first kind of new beginning episode, and hopefully Flobo will be joining us a lot more frequently, and we'll be talking about the entertainment and the changes going on daily in our lives.